I really want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. As many of you know, we've been running this SDG series, which is a Sustainable Development Goal series, and we are really committed to building awareness about global issues and educating our students to become caring and discerning citizens. The Sustainable Goals Speaker Series introduces our students and our communities, thank you for coming, to our alumni and friends of Mount Madonna School who are engaged in advocating for change and solutions to pressing global issues. And so tonight, this is going to be a process that's very solution oriented, and it's going to be very interactive. So when we think about our alumni, one such leader is, of course, Ryan Oliver. And Ryan is a 1994 MMS graduate. He's also taught at Mount Madonna School, and he holds degrees from Harvard University, California State University, Monterey Bay, and the University of Pittsburgh. Currently, he serves as the executive director of the BUILD Bay Area, Los Angeles. And BUILD is an organization that works with youth in underserved communities to prepare them for the skills for high school, college, and career success. And they use an approach which is based on entrepreneur-based and experiential learning approach to really develop and reinforce the Common Core state standards as well as really 21st century standards so that we can really develop our youth and have them be incredibly productive people in our society. And Ryan uses a human-centered design approach. And we are going to learn this approach tonight. And as a collective, we are going to practice this. So this evening, Ryan is going to discuss designing for equity. And he's going to talk about disrupting systemic inequity through innovation in education. And he's going to offer an experiential seminar using what I mentioned, this human-centered approach. And so the seminar is going to really cut across multiple SDGs. And according to Ryan, participants, that is you guys, we are going to be asked to engage in this kind of rapid design experience. And so I really want you to put your thinking caps on and really work with us to learn as much as we can about this evening. And it's going to be related to education and equity. So thank you so much for coming. And I'm so excited to introduce Ryan. Normally this evening is going to be divided into 3 parts. It's going to be the seminar. And I think the seminar is going to be very interactive from what I've heard. Some questions will be designed from our students, and they're going to have a role in this. And at the end, we're certainly going to open it for audience engagement by asking questions or potentially sharing your experience. So without further ado, I'd like to thank Monterey Bay Mortgage for sponsoring tonight, but also I'm really excited to introduce you to Ryan. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see you all, although I can only see myself, but that's all right. We'll see faces later. I'm excited to be here, as Anne and Blythe both gave a lot of details on me, so I'm going to jump right in and sort of give you the next layer down. So we'll go to the next slide, and thank you for helping me present so I can see you. So I wanted to start in the yogic tradition, which is to start with sort of the highest teaching first, and just to say the essence of what I'm hoping to share tonight is really the concept of integration as a remedy for inequity, and that really it's the foundation of this myth or ignorance of separation that is the seed that creates inequity, and certainly has created inequity in education, is the idea that we are separate, and that some people are other and different from us, and therefore it's acceptable that that we might receive opportunities that they don't, and vice versa. And so that's it. As I told the students, like, if you got that, feel free to just like kick back and relax for the next 50 minutes or so. If you are interested and curious and want to learn more, then I'll give you the next layer down, which is to say that coming to Mount Madonna School was a process of self-integration for me. And I think any kind of external action in the world has to start with our own process and our own self-reflection. And I will say that what I loved most about Mount Madonna was the ability to express elements of myself that had been hidden or dormant in other contexts. And so, as you can see here, these are different elements of myself that in many ways were hidden when I was at Santa Cruz High and other educational experiences. One homage to Sampad is performing arts, right? That part of me had gone dormant when I went to high school. To the right there, my love of nature and the outdoors. To the far left corner there, this is a picture of us doing power pranayam and breaking a rock on my chest, which is a sort of silly and funny way of speaking to something very serious and important to me, which is my own spiritual practice. And then below that is my intellectual self, represented by John Lewis and the amazing interviews and experiences that I had in Sadanand's class, and with a variety of teachers throughout my experience. And then on the far right was my volleyball self, represented by our Lady Hawks here in this picture, which was the identity that rose to the surface before I came to Mount Madonna, but which was only one small part of who I was. And the irony is that volleyball sort of was the path that led me to Mount Madonna, but it was the flourishing and the integration of all these other parts of myself that was really the most valuable and deeply meaningful to me in my Mount Madonna experience, and continues to be, as I am part of the larger Mount Madonna and Hanuman Fellowship community, and now serve on the board, and am deeply committed to the sustainability of this project, because it's done such good for me in my life. So excited to be here. And I'd love for folks to just quickly, we'll start the interaction early because Anne really played it up. And so now I want to deliver. So if people can just put in the chat for now, we'll play with Jamboard later, which is just a simple tool for collaboration. But for now, you can just put in the chat if there's a part of yourself that you care deeply about, that you feel like is not fully expressed right now in your life, put that in the chat, just as a marker, as a note, and maybe as something that you might develop or pay attention to in your life. So throw it out there. So we'll just give a moment to see that and then move on to the next slide in a moment. I love seeing all these come in. Great. Well, don't be shy. Keep going. We'll move to the next one, and again, just hold that intention of integration in the self, leading to integration in the external world, which is the core of what we're exploring. So we can go to the next piece. So on that note of integration, we have a joke in our family, our small family, that we're a little bit extra. And so in that spirit of being a little bit extra, I couldn't choose just one goal. And I deeply believe that success in any of these goals will require integration of the goals, right? It's impossible for me, in my experience as an educator, as a teacher, and practitioner of social entrepreneurship, to think about quality education as somehow separate from innovation and separate from reducing inequality. To me, those are inextricably integrated, and it's the integration of multiple disciplines and multiple perspectives that has been really my life's work since leaving Mount Madonna School many years ago. So I just wanted to name that and say that was very intentional. And I hope that you'll see the interweaving of that throughout. So the agenda for tonight is to just share with you, without making it an infomercial for Build, but just to share with you how through Build, we're looking at an integrative approach to educational equity through innovation. I want to provide some basic understanding of human-centered design as a core tool for social change, as a way to pursue entrepreneurship in a way that's ethical and humane because it keeps human beings at the center. And then finally, I want to give us an opportunity to apply human-centered design to solve a meaningful challenge that has been really distilled out from our students, who will serve as the ultimate clients tonight. You're designing something for them, and they are going to give you feedback on that design. And hopefully we'll have some Q&A at the end. That's the intention. So at Build, we are focused on building a new generation of entrepreneurial leaders and change makers, not necessarily entrepreneurs, but young people that can approach life and the world in an entrepreneurial way. We can go through these pretty quickly. So just that. Anne already mentioned our mission, so I'll just keep it moving. We'll just say we're now a national organization and launching really exciting digital content, which has been fulfilling and exciting for me to integrate. Again, different elements of myself. The core of what we do is to develop a mindset and a skill set that allows students to be adaptable in the world beyond high school. And high school is absolutely the real world. And there's a more complex or differently complex world beyond that that is changing so rapidly that we can't just teach content and assume that students will be prepared for a world where the content is 10x, every moment almost, in terms of the knowledge and speed at which things are moving. So that's what we do as a foundation and how it's sort of related to those goals. We can go to the next piece. This moment really does demand change. And so even though Build has been doing this work for over 20 years, and in fact, Build was founded the year that I started teaching, 1999, there is a groundswell, I hope, that continues, which is an impatience and a lack of acceptance of the world as it is. The normal that existed before COVID was horribly inequitable, continues to be. And ironically, some of the trauma of COVID has unleashed, I think, a new energy combined with the death of George Floyd and the reawakening of action around racial injustice, has really created a moment that Build and myself and my colleagues, educators all over the world and the country are actively trying to take advantage of to create meaningful change as quickly as possible at a systemic level. And I really heard and felt students' angst around that sense of how can I affect the system, right? I am one person, I'm one, I can make small actions, but these are systemic, massive changes that need to be made with people that feel far away or things that I don't even know who is controlling what. And I feel that pain and that angst. And part of what I hope we uncover is that your actions, small or large, in concert with other actions and others' intention, does actually create systemic change. And I think our founder, Suzanne McKechnie-Clark, who is the founder of Build 20 years ago, is an example of that. She started with 4 children. This year, we impacted 15,000. We're aiming for 100,000 in the next 5 to 10 years through digital acceleration and geographic expansion across the country, and ultimately changing the way teachers engage in schools, public schools primarily, across the country, but hopefully all schools, and the way that children are seen. And so next piece is my attempt to share with you an asset-based approach and the communities that we work with. So we can go to the next piece. So I wanted to play for you just a short clip of this, and we can start at about 45 seconds in to speed it along. But this is to establish for you all, for all of us, I hope, a sense not that communities of color or communities that lack economic wealth are to be pitied or saved or feared, but that they are human beings with incredible gifts, and that we have different gifts, right? Communities that are separated might have different gifts, but the essence is that we want to approach whatever we're doing and designing tonight with an asset-based approach that sees gifts in all human beings, and particularly in this group of young ladies that I've worked with closely over the last 3 years. You'll get to see pitch a business idea so that they've come up with during COVID, and engage with a CEO of a company. And again, we can start about 45 seconds in, and then we'll go for maybe 3 minutes and then pause.
The teams you'll see tonight won the challenge in their region. With support from their mentors and VIP coaches, they're ready to present to you right now. To start us off, it is my pleasure to introduce you to 5 fabulous ladies from Team Connect. They recently connected with their VIP coach, Heidi Zach, the founder of Third Love, to share their innovation that addresses the challenge of isolation and mental wellness.
I am from East Oakland. We're working towards a gaming app called Connect.
I live in the Bay Area, and I'm the co-founder of the app Connect.
I'm from Oakland. I'm the co-founder of the Connect app.
I live in Oakland, California. I go to Lionel Wilson Prep Academy, and my team name is Connect.
I am also an 11th grader that attends Lionel Wilson Prep. I have also been in Build since 9th grade.
These amazing students have been working hard on their innovation while adapting to the new normal during this pandemic.
Right now, I'm a part of Build. I'm also a part of a group called Wild A. I'm trying to become a corporate attorney one day. I'm always the first one to speak up. I love public speaking. I know that many of my friends think of it as like shy or they're nervous about it, but I never mind. Being able to create your own product, being able to go to sale events and make a pitch and try to encourage people to actually invest in you, encourage people to see, oh, why should I buy your product over the 100 of others I can buy in the store?
Today, they're joined by Heidi Zach, CEO and founder of Third Love.
Third Love is a brand for the modern woman, focused on elevated essentials, including bras, underwear, loungewear, and more.
Let's take a look at what Team Connect is creating.
Connect is an app that lets people bond with their loved ones both inside their homes and outside in the real world. The app includes digital maps that direct people to fun activities. The app will also include levels of difficulty so people can continue to have fun.
Our app Connects allow people to connect with neighbors and relatives in their area to complete missions with them and to advance in new levels. The app's digital map is used to locate where users can finish tasks and create adventures that could be done indoors and outdoors too for those who are not able to wander outside.
Connect gives you instructions to complete a mission while you're outside and still following social distancing rules. You are also able to create your own servers so that you are able to play with people you know.
The app allows you to create an avatar. Users spend earned coins on clothing and gear for the avatars to show off. Our inspiration for Connect is Pokemon Go and Animal Crossing. Our goal is to help families and friends to bond together during this tough time.
We want Connect to have a life after COVID. We hope that people will find new ways to entertain themselves with their friends and family. Even if our world has changed throughout these months, we need to be connected while being disconnected. Thank you.
I mean, I think that especially right now, but always, right, there's this feeling of loneliness and disconnection that people have from each other. So I love the idea. As you think about, I guess, building out this product, what do you think is going to be the most challenging for you guys as a team?
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much. Just wanted to give you a taste of that. Happy to share the videos if you're interested and want to see more of their pitch and their response to judges. But I think it's important because there is, as I told the students earlier today, a very intentional separation of communities that we actually see what's happening in other communities. And we understand that it may be different than what we expect. And again, that is the path to systemic change in my mind. It starts with small individual actions to build community and connection, to integrate across difference. So that's really the focus of Build and the focus of our exploration tonight. So the next piece we'll look at is human-centered design. And some people may know it by the title Design Thinking out of Stanford's D School, or IDEO, which is the kind of commercialization of that concept. But human-centered design is really an approach within design thinking that ensures that human beings and empathy are at the root of whatever we are designing for. And so it has 5 steps. Tonight, the empathy process will be brief, but you've seen a little bit about the students that we work with in cities like Oakland. You'll hear a little bit about some of the challenges that I heard from our 11th graders at Mount Madonna. We'll define the problem, and I'll do that part. I'll give you that definition. You'll do the ideation, so you get a chance to be creative. Everybody that said you wanted to unleash your creativity, this is your moment. We'll probably skip prototyping given time, but then you will get to test out your idea by pitching it in a minute and a half or so, explaining your concept that you've come up with in a small group, and having our juniors give you feedback since you're trying to design a solution for them. Right? So that's my 45-second introduction to human-centered design. And it's all right, it's experiential learning. We'll try it out. And as SN often says, we'll do the test before the lesson. It's more fun that way. So we'll go on to the next piece. In fact, I think we'll skip this piece. I'll share it. With folks in the chat, and you can watch another time, but it sort of lays out how we do this with our students. I just want to give a shout out to the 2 students that were brave enough to send me some videos of them answering some questions, and to all the students that were brave enough and engaged and shared their thoughts. So Alyssa and Ben, just thank you so much for sharing your videos. They were really helpful for me to get a sense of who you are. And then I read the responses of everybody that wrote their responses. And from that desire to understand you briefly, and I've already admitted it's very superficial. We're just trying to get a sense and to approximate the experience. I came up with a problem, and I've kind of cleared it with the students that are here tonight, and they assured me this is a problem that is reasonable and they're interested in having solved. So we can go to the next piece, which is, sorry, slight adjustment there. So in addition, the empathy process deals with engaging individuals who are designing for, and it often, in its most thorough context, involves an analysis of the context, historical, geographic, communal. And so I just wanted to name, again, in brief form, that the topic we're looking at and the problem that was identified is about segregation, right? In all its forms, right? The separation of people along racial lines, ethnic lines, ideological lines, religious lines. That segregation in a racial and ethnic context was human created. And as a former history teacher, I just wanted to name that if you live in the United States of America and you feel segregated in the sense that you do not come into contact with people who are different from yourself racially, ethnically, ideologically, religiously, that is by design. And yes, we are making choices, and my encouragement is for us to make different choices and to break out of that segregation. And we should know that this has a long history going back to colonialism and the creation of this ideology of white supremacy through slavery, through Jim Crow, through criminalization of Black and brown bodies, redlining, which is the forcing of people of color into specific neighborhoods and keeping them out of other neighborhoods, that urban planning, creating of projects and public work projects, creating freeways that isolated communities from one another, like East Palo Alto and East Oakland, that then go into funding formulas so that schools, after forcing people into neighborhoods that are intentionally maintained in a state of economic distress, while they have incredible cultural wealth and economic and intellectual wealth and social wealth, economically impoverished communities are then affected by a tax system that puts property taxes into schools, and therefore results in schools in wealthy communities having more privilege and more access and more opportunity. And so just understand that that is a whole context that has been constructed and can be deconstructed. And the most recent issues around voting rights and disenfranchisement are just a perpetuation of that segregation and separation. If you want to go more deeply into those things, I know a lot of us have hopefully been exploring these things over the past year and more, but there's some books and resources there. I'll share more later. But I just want to put that in a context to say our students have a problem with segregation, which isn't their fault in the sense they didn't create it. And I believe it's our responsibility to act consciously against that and to innovate around that. And so that's the context, not of judgment, but of opportunity. So it's my 2-minute history of racism in America. Completely inadequate, but there it is. So here's the define stage. We've gone through empathize. Now we're into define, okay, which means to zero in on a specific problem for ideally an individual, or in this case, a group of individuals. So Mount Madonna students need a way to build connections with youth from diverse backgrounds, racially, ethnically, ideologically, all the ways, so they can learn from each other's gifts and take actions for equity. Right. So again, Mount Madonna students need a way to build connections with youth from diverse backgrounds so they can learn from each other's gifts and take actions for equity. And again, this came out of questions that students answered about their successes and challenges in understanding racial inequity in education and taking action. And I just want to shout out that we have students on campus at Mount Madonna School that have taken action, that have led marches, that have created student unions, that have really stepped out and done things that probably were uncomfortable or unfamiliar. And so this is about building upon whatever has been done and recognizing the work that's already happened. So now's the slightly hard part. I tried really hard to make this as clear as possible because I'm going to ask us to go into breakout rooms for about 10 to 12 minutes. It's not going to be long. But I'm going to ask folks to generate in small groups as many innovative, creative solutions for our Mount Madonna students, our juniors, to build connections with youth from diverse backgrounds as you can in the span of 8 to 10 minutes of actual ideation time. Great. So you're going to be in 3 to 4 groups. Nicole has tried to randomize you as best she could. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do, and it's sometimes hard for those of us that are talkers, is do not talk when you get into the room. Take 1 minute, 2 minutes at the most, to just write down individually as many crazy, wild solutions to this problem as you possibly can. The research shows that leads to more creativity than the out loud brainstorming that we do right off the bat, right? So just trust me on that one, try it. And again, go for quantity. Doesn't matter. Don't censor yourself, put crazy wild things, put stupid things. It doesn't matter. Just as many as you can. Don't overthink and don't censor. Really encourage you to write by hand. But if you want to jump in the Jamboard and start just putting Post-its up, that's great too. We'll then go to group ideation. So once you've had a minute or two to think and process and write as many as you can, we'll then go to sharing those ideas. And I'm going to ask you to have a spirit and the actual vocabulary of yes and, right? So rather than the yeah, but that wouldn't work and that's not feasible, and yes and allows us to build on whatever your partners are saying. It'll be 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes at the most. And that actually spurs creativity because it requires you not to think about it too deeply, but just to generate as many ideas as you possibly can in the short time that you have, and then converge on maybe a combination of ideas, but come up with something that you are going to present, pitch to our students for feedback by the end of our time, which will be 7:50 at the latest. We might pull you back sooner, so work fast.
All right, I'm going to open all the rooms. You guys are all going to go into breakout rooms.
All right, I'll come around and check on you in a little bit. I'm here. Well, so I was first going to say, I love your, your attempt to solve your own problem. I think it's wonderful. And part of the human-centered design process and design thinking in general is that it's often pretty hard to solve your own problems, right? Without perspective or without input and without other sort of things, because we know what we know, right? Like in some ways, if you could have solved your own problem with everything you have right now, you probably would have done it, right? So it's really, and maybe just bringing awareness to a challenge allows you then to say, oh, that is a challenge. I didn't realize I had it. But the part of the insight here is that we gain from diverse perspectives on our own challenges, even from unexpected places, right? And I know that I just want to name that as having once been a high school junior myself, my parents or my like collective parents was not necessarily the source of solutions that I wanted at a certain point in life and time. And you might be surprised, right, by some of the things that pop out from your collective parent community and other Mount Madonna family members that are here. So just want to name that. And given where we are, I want to ask folks to be brave. Thank you for diving in. There are things popping up on the Jamboard. I know ideas were created. I'm going to ask every group to just give us a 1 minute. What was one of the ideas, right? The idea maybe you decided on, or an idea that really caught your attention, that you're excited about, or nervous about, or think is wild and crazy. And I'm going to ask students to be thinking about, what do you love or like about the ideas that are out there? What do you wish in terms of a way it might be modified or changed? And what do you wonder in terms of a question you might have? And we may not hit all of those for every pitch because we're short on time, but I just wanted to share the process so that we can practice it. Okay. So I'm going to ask people to be brave. Don't look for permission. Don't wait to say, oh, are you going to present? Am I going to present? Just jump in. And we're going to start with group 2. Carson.
I'll just jump in. I was part of that team. I think one of the ideas that I saw that I really liked was around a Snapchat concept, maybe some sort of social, I mean, this is the old guy interpreting what was said, but some sort of notion of leveraging social media in some way to, and I think the idea that was the idea of maybe coming up with some sort of dance move or whatever, and then reaching out and building relationships potentially with some other schools and having them add to it, or I don't know, some sort of chain that brought people together. It wasn't my idea, but I thought it was a great idea.
Great. One student, is there something that you really like about this idea?
I like that. I think technology is really powerful, so I think there's like a lot that can be incorporated and it can move really quickly.
Awesome. Any wishes or wonders?
I also like technology, but I like the integration of other schools. I think that's good.
Cool. Awesome. Let's go to group 3.
Okay, I'll hop on since Stephanie wrote our notebook. Okay. Collaborating on group activities like math teams with other schools, kind of the common theme that came up is like also having like a sister or similar, like connecting with other local schools and doing like having pen pals, but with your local community. And also volunteering at our local nonprofit, like soup kitchens, and also the local grassroots organizations, getting in touch with, we have a lot of those, at least in Santa Cruz, and getting to know people that are actually doing the work and that kids might be interested in knowing more about. So
awesome. Any likes, wishes, or wonders? Somebody that hasn't spoken?
I really like the idea of having a sister school. I think that would actually be really nice. And especially if we were doing the volunteering like at the soup kitchen, like with the sister school, so we would get bonding time. I think that would be excellent.
Kayla, you just demonstrated a perfect yes and moment. So excellent combining and adding. All right, let's go to group 4.
Take a stab at it. So we also talked a little bit about a sister school and kind of developing a relationship, whether it be like in Watsonville or Santa Cruz or even like Gilroy. And one of the things that we talked about was doing, putting on events for like the local community. We talked specifically about Watsonville High's, they have a theater troupe. So, you know, Mount Madonna is a very theater centric school. So we could do like some sort of production with them. So we were just kind of going along those lines.
Love it. Awesome. Anything we love or like about that, or wishes or wonders?
I really like that idea. I mean, I like the sister idea, and I think that teamwork through whatever it is, theater, is a great way to bond. I mean, we do that throughout Mount Madonna School, so teamwork is a great way to get to know other people.
Awesome. I think we have one more group to go. Group 5.
I can jump in. A lot of what we said was around youth groups and joining youth groups, whether they be youth groups of political parties or youth groups of church groups or any of the clubs from other schools, but kind of picking what wouldn't be normal for us and contacting the youth that are devoted to that and trying to listen and share.
Great. Jump in. Anything you like or love about it?
I really like that because I think that combines a lot of common interest, and getting people together with common interest is a great way to facilitate bonding. And just like when students come together who are all passionate about the same ideas, it creates a really great opportunity for us to work together, and our different perspectives from different schools would definitely provide a good opportunity for new and more innovative ideas, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace. And I hear we have a group 6. I'm sorry, I didn't see you on the Jamboard, so you may have been in an alternative space. If we have a group 6, this is your moment.
I'll jump in. The idea of a performance, some sort of performance, including other schools, came up. But the big thing was to sustain relationships and not just have a single event, but to figure out a way to continue ongoing relationships.
Beautiful. Anything we love or like about that? Well, I will say what I love is that, though very quick, right, and very messy, and you can see from the painting behind me, I'm okay with mess. Thank you, Sharda, for providing the background for this experience. In that mess, what I just heard was an incredible building upon one another in a integrated whole that got us to a different place. and just hearing students, the hopefulness and the excitement in your voices. I'll just say that was very different than what I read and heard in your responses to those questions. And so I just want to give love and appreciation to this loving Mount Madonna community around you that that is holding you and loving you and just knowing that this time is so hard, and it's also full of hopefulness and full of opportunity, and full of this chance to reconnect with your own self by connecting with others who are holding other parts of you. And my time's up, so I'm going to stop there. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I am gonna, if you have time, Ryan, I would like to see if anybody in the audience has questions or students have questions, because we did this very quickly, but it certainly generated a lot of ideas. And so I'm curious if anybody else has ideas or things that they'd like to share or add on. You can put your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and just come on in.
I'll say something. I just love the ideas of working with, how quickly all this came together and how many ideas were generated. I'm really excited as a teacher at Mount Madonna to see how I could fit into making sister schools. I grew up going to school in Watsonville, right down the hill. I went to school where most kids did not culturally share the same. I was of a different culture background. And like we were saying, having a common goal, building teams, the drama, maybe having sports teams, that brings down barriers so quickly. Even maybe an evening class. I'm super excited about all the ideas that this generated. So thank you.
Sarojini has a question, and Ryan, the question, oh, all right, Ryan already, look at that. So Sarojini asks, what are the 21st century skills? And the 21st century skills are collaboration, communication, problem solving, innovation, grit, and self-management. And so these are the skills that really students and adults are going to need to really, so that they can navigate the 21st century, because the way that people used to have jobs and the landscape of the network of jobs is sort of changing dramatically. And so students need a new set of skills in order to really develop new ideas within this new framework. Ryan, do you want to talk any more about that?
Yeah, I'll just mention that really was, we call them spark skills at Build. It's sort of a Build creation, but it's based on research into everything Anne mentioned, right? There's a lot of research on these transferable skills that are not about content, they're about mindset and sort of approach to whatever content or whatever task or problem. So that's sort of the core of what Build is teaching. And it comes from a lot of that research about how what creates success in entrepreneurship is often what leads to life, career, college success. And so that's sort of the foundation of that is the foundation of our curriculum and our work.
I was particularly struck while the groups were in their breakout rooms, the students were in the main room, and Anne started asking them questions. It was really surprising to me to hear the perspective shift when the students were coming up with their own suggestions, and then when the external group presented theirs, it was the perspective shift, and the demeanor and tone was significantly different. And I had never heard the perspective, Ryan, of it's really hard for us to solve our own problems. And so that was really valuable for me tonight.
And I should add the nuance there that I think we have to be obviously invested in and participating in solving our own problems, but to break out of the thinking we have, we often need other inputs, right, to get it started. And I say that because I think there's been a lot of damage done by folks coming into communities that are seen as under-resourced and trying to fix them. That's not the message. The message is we just need more inputs and more, a collaborative process that involves more voices, and it does really change the dynamic.
Wonderful. Sarojini said, thank you to each person wanting positive change and taking action for it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that from my perspective, it's been really interesting to see and hear so many different voices, and taking this approach certainly is really a great way for us to analyze ways that we can address some of the problems that rise at school, and really take a creative approach and try to listen to different perspectives and co-create, and more voices, the better. So thank you tonight. Thank you so much for introducing us to this quick, within less than an hour, of different ways to think about addressing some of the challenges we have. And certainly you're always invited to also come and help us co-create as well. So I would like to thank you for this evening and for having this inspiring evening for us. If anyone else has any other questions, I see that also Ryan said, thank you, Sarojini, so much love and appreciation. We can stay on for a few more minutes if anybody else wants to chime in and share thoughts and share what you've learned from this evening. But if not, I do want to honor your time. And so thank you. It's really been a pleasure. Our next SDG is going to be on June 3rd, and it's going to be Maria Duhovny-Headley, and she is going to discuss rethinking traditional gender in classic literature. Ryan, you're invited. I encourage you to come. And everybody else, we encourage you to come as well.